Hey kids, Mr. Fly here, hope you're well, and welcome back to the channel on an absolutely cracking day on an absolutely cracking bike, because today I'm absolutely chuffed to be riding the brand new for 2025 Ducati Streetfighter V2s. Here she is. What an absolute beast. Anyway, this is my first ride on it, and I think this is possibly one of the first road rides on YouTube on the new Street Fighter. So if you're interested in this machine, stick around and stay tuned. I'll tell you what I think of it. So welcome back to the channel, folks, and another bike review. Now this is a motorcycle I've been itching to get hold of for absolutely ages, because I saw all the reviews of the Panigale V2, the Multistrada V2 and the Street Fighter V2, most of which have been on track. In fact, probably all of which have been on track. But no one had actually, let's go down here actually, no one had actually ridden the bikes on the road. And for me, as a entirely road rider, I want to know what they're like on roads exactly like this, bumpy, potholed British roads, not sunny racetrack somewhere. So that's what this video is all about. It's my first ride review on actual British roads. And what a beautiful day to do it on, eh? It's absolutely cracking. Anyway, before we get too carried away with the ride, let me show you over this beast. So here she is, folks, the brand new for 2025 Ducati Streetfighter V2s. And Street Fighter, I've got a sort of a strange sort of history with, because when they first came out, the original, well, not the original Street Fighter, but this sort of incarnation, the V4 a few years back, I didn't like the look of it. I thought they'd taken the Panigale and spoiled it. But over the years, it's kind of grown on me, and this is obviously the latest version of the baby Street Fighter in V2 form. So let's have a little look from front to back. There's that sort of, if you like, signature light that the Street Fighter has. Others have copied it, but Ducati still have that dead right. Really like that. Not too keen on these indicators. They look a little bit plastically for my liking. Down here we've got the lovely Ohlins shocks and Brembo brake calipers, because this is the V2s version. We'll talk more about that later. There's that new engine, which this bike is all about 18 kilograms lighter than the outgoing Interceptor V2. It's just known as the V2 engine now. It doesn't have a fancy name anymore. Coming around the back end, the exhaust pipes, I really like what they've done by putting these under the tail like that. You've still got that big underslung catalytic converter and everything else that goes with it, but I think by bringing the pipes up in a more sort of MotoGP fashion, I just think it looks cool. So that looks really good. And then the other big thing to notice on this bike, compared to the outgoing Street Fighter V2, is it's now got a double-sided swing arm again, instead of the single-sided unit, so that's upset a few people. And then round on this side you can see you've got the Ohlins shock there as well. Anyway, so yeah, that's what she looks like. Basically the fuel tank, the rear tail unit and the frame is all identical to the Panigale V2, as is the engine, to be fair. But yeah, handsome looking brute. Okay, welcome back, folks. So much for how she looks. How does she ride then? In a word, very nice indeed. Everything they say is true. In that the thing that I was most looking forward to is the fact that this bike has a tremendous weight saving over previous V2s. Now, I was an 899 Panigale owner, so I was very familiar with the old Super Quadro engine, which was the V2 that preceded this one. This one's been completely redesigned, and they've shaved 18 kilograms off the weight of the engine, which is significant. And boy, does it feel an awful lot lighter. For me, the weight saving is a big deal. The other thing that when this bike was launched that people weren't too happy about was the fact that the horsepower has been reduced. We're down now at 120 brake horsepower ish, we'll go through the specs in a minute in the usual way, as opposed to the 150 plus horsepower that the old V2 had. Well, I'll tell you what, you don't need more than 120 brake horsepower on the road, and combined with that weight saving, this doesn't feel any less ballistic than any previous V2 that I've ridden. Yeah, it's very agile, very light feeling. So in terms of comfort on the bike, the first thing that struck me when I jumped on was just how wide these handlebars are. a lot wider than the outgoing Streetfighter V2. It actually feels like quite a substantial bike. You can move around on the seat a bit. Even if you're a bigger fella, I think you'd be alright on this. It doesn't feel, to me, like a small machine. Now, I know my mate Lamb Chops Ride rode one on the track, and he's a big fella, and he did say it felt a little bit cramped, but I think it's quite roomy. But there we go. I'm 5'8", so I'm a medium-sized chap, so take your cue from that. What I would say is you are leant forward a bit. It is quite a sporty riding position. We're not talking upright like it would be if you're on, say, I don't know, a Triumph Bonneville or a Kawasaki Z900 RS. There is a bit of weight on your wrists. It's not hideously wristy like a sports bike, but you know, you're getting your weight over the front wheel, which of course aids in handling. Bit of a shame that I'm stuck behind this car. This engine sounds epic. Man, this is a bumpy road. So this variant of the bike I'm on is the V2s. So it comes with the Ohlins suspension, which is doing a lovely job, but it is a bumpy old road. Right, what else to say about comfort? The seat, it's typically Ducati, feels very much like my old Panigale seat did actually. Not an awful lot of padding there. It's quite wide on the old buttocks. I wouldn't describe it as uncomfortable, but I don't know how it would fare after a few hours. Right, let's turn wherever he's not going. We'll go the other way. Where is he going? We haven't a guess. Okay, he's going that way. We'll go this way then. And immediately get behind another car. Whoa, she certainly flies. And I'll tell you what, 120 brake horsepower doesn't feel not very powerful on this machine. Right, now I've caught up with this car, let me just have a little play. Yeah, it's very flickable, this. So much grip on these warm roads today as well. It's lovely. Right, so I'm just coming into the town of Thame now, and I thought I'll just see what this bike is like, you know, in town, slow speed riding, that sort of thing. So here we are, second gear, 15 miles an hour, thereabouts. And this engine is actually as smooth as you like. There's no judder. It's not complaining. My old Panigale, if you tried to do that with the old Super Quattro engine, it would have been like riding a jackhammer at this point. No, it's quite well behaved, it has to be said. They have done wonders on this engine. It's a very nice, number one, it sounds great and it goes well, but also it behaves itself in slow traffic like this. Not this is much traffic, but slow speed. And then when you do wind it up, there is power absolutely everywhere on it. Just knows what's going on there. It's got something like 80% of its torque available from 3000 RPM up. So it's always got to go, this bike. And again, if you're predominantly a road rider, that's important, isn't it? Okay, so what's the Streetfighter like if you're just poodling along on a normal A road like this? Look, 60 miles an hour. How's it for things like wind protection? Well, of course, it's a naked bike, so there's no wind protection. Having said that, the lower half of you, because the bike's got a fairly sizable frontal area, is quite well protected. The top half of my body, of course, it's in the wind flow, but there's nothing here that's creating anything turbulent. So my head's not being buffeted around or anything like that. So I'm sat in a nice, smooth airflow. It's actually quite pleasant. Sat like this, you could ride for some time. Oh, what a fantastic day to be out on a bike, eh? Good for the soul, this sort of thing, isn't it? I'll tell you what, this bike absolutely loves roundabouts. It's great fun nipping around there. Especially on these nice warm roads when there's plenty of grip on the tyres. Right, while I'm stuck behind this car, let's take a look at what we're looking at on the handlebars here. So, bit of a refresh for Ducatis this. Mirrors work really well, by the way. They're nice and big, and a nice clear view out the back, so they're all fine and they look quite nice as well. On the left hand switch gear, quite a change from what I'm used to from previous Ducatis. You've now got this sort of four-way switch thing with an accept button in the middle. Works it's quite easy to use. Just looks a bit trumpery maybe, but I haven't got a big problem with that. It's all quite straightforward and easy to use. That alloyed with the TFT, which is beautifully clear. So it's a nice place to be. It looks good here. These straight across, of course, Streetfighter S handlebars look cool, and with the Ohlins front fork tops as well showing. So you're looking at a nice setup here. Let's go this way. Maybe didn't choose the best roads here. Look at those holes. Unbelievable. I'll come back a different way. I did say it was going to be a real world test. Quick shifter works nicely, both up and down of course. And when you wind her up, that V2's got a lovely bark to it. Right, slow down again into a 30. I say the quick shifter works nicely. It does most of the time, but there's been a little bit of hesitation a couple of times when I've been under load and changed gear. I don't know if you can change the parameters on the quick shifter on it. It seems like the delay is a little bit longer than I'd like, but I'm being very finicky there. I quite like the fuel tank on here. I think it's exactly the same fuel tank as on the Panigale. By the way, talk to fuel tanks, it's actually got a fuel gauge, which is incredible. But the reason I mention it is it's quite nice to grip between your legs. Again, I guess it just depends what size person you are, but as a 5'8" medium-sized bloke, I can grip this tank between my legs. It just gives you an extra bit of, you know, contact with the bike, gives you the feeling of a bit more control. There we go, the quick shift was absolutely fine that time. Maybe I just need to be a little bit more positive with it than I was being. Yeah, this bumpy road is certainly giving the suspension a test. So another of the big changes on the V2 Streetfighter is, of course, it now doesn't have a single-sided swing arm, and that is basically physics doing its thing. Single-sided swing arms may look lovely, but they are very, very heavy because they have to be completely bolstered up in order to you know, make sure the wheel is securely held, tracking correctly, etc. And actually, from a physics point of view, it makes far more sense to have a double-sided swing arm. And in fact, I think Ducati say they've built in something like 5% more flex into the now double-sided swing arm on here. I can't say I can honestly feel a difference, but it all contributes to the weight saving on the bike. Alrighty, well, I'll try and find some slightly more major roads with better road surfaces. Let me talk you through the specs on the bike. Alright, as ever, let's start with the engine on this bike, which is perhaps the jewel in the crown. It's the all-new 890cc V2, puts out 120 brake horsepower, as I say, 69 foot-pounds of torque. The torque curve is such that actually peak torque is available all the way from 3000 RPM and up, which makes it very nice as a road bike. Controversially, perhaps, it uses valve springs now rather than the traditional Desmo drive, and as I say, it's 30 odd brake horsepower down on the outgoing bike's engine, but 18 kilograms lighter, which is incredible. It's quite technically clever as well. It's got things like variable inlet valve timing, stuff like that, so clever bit of kit. Brakes on the front, these Brembo M50 monoblocks, and both the V2 and the V2S gets those, I believe, and they're on 320mm discs. On the back end, no idea what size that disc is, couldn't find that out, but this has also got a Brembo caliper gripping it, single pot by the looks of it. Front suspension on this V2S is the Ohlins Nix 30 forks. If you go for the standard V2, then you get Marzocchi 43mm upside down forks. On the back, on the V2S, you get this Ohlins shock, and again on the standard bike you get, I think it's Kayaba rear shock on there. There's that seat, of which the height is 838mm, which sounds quite high, but actually at 5'8", medium-sized fella, I can get my feet flat down on the deck, no problems. Weight-wise, the standard V2 is 177 kilograms wet, but with no fuel. This V2S is 175 kilograms, a little bit lighter, and that's because I think this has got a lithium battery, and that accounts for the difference. Would you believe the monocoque frame in here only weighs 4 kilograms? I mean, there's not much of it. It's bolted to the engine, which is a stressed member. Tank capacity on the bike is a mystery to me. I couldn't find that out for looking on the internet, but I suspect it's the same as the Panigale V2 because it's the same tank. electronics wise, best check the website because it's got everything. It's similar to the Panigale V2. It's got this 5-inch TFT, IMU, cornering, ABS and traction, wheelie control, engine braking control, power launch, quick shifter, various modes, optional turn-by-turn sat-nav, I'll give that a miss, and all sorts of other stuff as well. So laden with electronics, this bike. Price-wise, the standard V2 comes in at $13,990, which is actually $2,500 less than the old model. That makes a change, doesn't it? This V2S with the Ohlins comes in at $15,990. The only other thing to mention, the bike only comes in red. I imagine that will change over the years, and there is rather an optional Terminioni exhaust if you want to shell out a couple of grand for that.
So welcome back aboard the bike, folks. Just thinking about that weight reduction that the V2S has over the V2. Of course, the V2S comes with a seat cowl, whereas the standard V2 doesn't have that. It has a little passenger seat, and the standard V2 has passenger pegs, whereas they're removed on the V2S. So again, that may account for some of the weight reduction on the V2S over the V2. So alright then, what's my summary of the bike? What are my likes and dislikes, and how does it compare to some of its competitors? Well, likes and dislikes. First of all, I love the lightweight nature of the bike. I love its easy to ride capability. I love the power it's got. I love the torque it's got. It's just right for the road. It's fantastic for that. I love the fact it's a Ducati. It's got that Ducati specialness. All that goes as red. Excuse the pun. What don't I like about the bike? Well, not too much really. A couple of things, I guess. First off, the price. It is expensive compared to the competition. And then the other thing is maybe the riding position is a little bit more extreme than I ideally would like. It's not, don't get me wrong, it's not bad at all, but you are lent a little bit more forward with a little bit more weight on the wrists than if you're on, say, a Street Triple from Triumph or a Yamaha MT-09, which I would have as the main competition for this bike. And I would also say that those two bikes are significantly cheaper. Now those come in various guises. In the case of the Yamaha, you can get the SP version or the standard, and of course you can get the RS version of the Street Triple or the standard bike. But those bikes are still significantly less money than this is. And is this that much better? Because this is, you know, at the order of £3,000 more expensive than those bikes. And if you spec it up, I spec one of these up on the configurator. I'm just going to wait for me. No, I don't know. Thank you, sir. I spec one of these up on the configurator with heated grips and just the bits and pieces I wanted, and it came out at like £17,000, which is quite a lot of money, isn't it? Whereas I spec'd up a Street Triple RS, and that came out at like 14. And then the other thing is, I do like a triple. And although this V2 sounds amazing when you wind it up, good day lads, like that, and it does very much have charm of its own, I also love the howl that you get out of a triple. So I think if it was my money and I was in the market, I'd be looking more towards MT-09 and Street Triple. If money was no object, and I'm a Ducati fanboy, which I am by the way, then I'll be looking towards the Streetfighter V2s. Of course, all this is only my opinion. Go out, ride all the bikes yourself, see what you think, and I'd love to know your comments in the comments below. I must just say a huge thank you to Mike and the lads up at On Your Bike, just outside Aylesbury, up near Waddesdon, who lent me this bike. If you want to go on the V2s, then give them a call. I'm sure they can set you up with a ride on this very machine. Great place up there. It's a destination in its own right. On a day like today, it's a great place for a ride out. There's usually a burger van up there, and there's loads of bikes to look at. They've got a shop selling kit as well, so well worth a visit to On Your Bike if you've not been up there. Right, that's it for this time. Look forward to speaking to you again soon. Until then, this has been the Listen and Fly. Cheerio. I'll tell you what, Ducati don't half knock out some good bikes, don't they, these days? I'm just trying to think if there's any bikes that they make that I don't like. I can't really think of any. I never used to be a massive fan of the Scrambler, but I haven't ridden one of those for a long time, and they've changed massively since the first Scrambler that I rode, so I really ought to ride another one of those. but pretty much everything in their lineup is a desirable bike, isn't it? They just seem to have the right design language that appeals to me. All their bikes look good to me now, and they really do have some absolute corkers. This is one I absolutely love, the Multistrada, of which more coming on my channel soon. And I really loved the Monster when I rode that. So many bikes to choose from. So much traffic to ride in.